The X Interview, hosted by Global X from the Skoll World Forum.
I'm Dennis Whittle. I'm the co-founder of GlobalGiving, which is kind of an eBay of philanthropy, and I'm based in Washington, D.C. Well, last week, my 73-year-old mother went back to work for the second time after basically being pronounced clinically dead in the hospital. Twice over the last 4 years, she's had very severe lung problems that have basically kept her from getting oxygen into her system. And both times she's been essentially pronounced clinically dead by the doctors, who cannot understand how her vital signs are consistent with actually being alive. And each time I've visited my mom in the hospital and I've said, you know, Mom, you're getting old and you're going to have to face up to the fact that your lungs don't work the way they used to. And she said, no, that's a lot of baloney. I'm getting out of here and going back to work. And each time a doctor has pulled me aside and said, you know, your mother's in very serious condition. She may not live more than a couple of weeks. And each time, through the power of just positive thinking, much to the irritation and amusement of us all, I think, she has willed herself back to health, willed herself off of her oxygen tank, and found herself sitting at the reception desk of the New Hampshire Housing Finance Authority. And that story is very meaningful to me in what I do, because so many times over the last 5 years, I've felt in a very tough situation in the creation and growth of global giving. And I think it's that type of grit that I must have inherited from her somehow that's given me the courage to go on. And that's only a metaphor for what many people in the sector do. Face unbelievable odds. Many times their initiatives are clinically dead and theoretically should not go on, and yet somehow people come back to life and even flourish. You know, about 10 years ago, Peter Drucker wrote an article about some of the future trends that he saw coming. And one of the things that he argued was on the way was something that he called a marketplace of meaning, or an economy of meaning. And Drucker said, increasingly, there are hundreds of millions of people in the world who have more than enough material things to satisfy their needs. And increasingly, the binding constraint in people's lives is lack of meaning. And so Drucker argued that we're going to enter a period where meaning is actually a good, a commodity, something bought and sold in the marketplace. And when I first read that, I thought that was an incredibly crass thing to say. But then when I started Global Giving about 5 or 6 years ago, I was talking to somebody about it, and he came up to me and said, you know, I've been thinking about this. And he said, you guys are really going to succeed when one day a guy gets up, an investment banker gets up, and he says, you know, I was thinking about going out and buying a nice stereo today, but instead I think I'll use that money to build a school in Kenya. And he said, you know, you'll know you really made it when people are thinking that way. And so we're not quite there yet, but we're heading in that direction. And I think by 2017, the share of meaning goods in the economy will be equal to or greater than the share of physical goods and other services in the economy.
Global X is also on SocialEdge at socialedge.org.